Speech off.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So, I am going to bring up a topic that I've always wanted to talk about, and I've never really had the chance. Now I have a channel, I kind of have a chance to rant about it. It is definitely book related, so this is not one of my random rants that I have done in the past. Anyway, so I've always wanted to talk about the lack of blind characters in books. There is so much representation for other disabilities in literature. Like, there's lots of books about kids with autism or dyslexia or just neurodivergence in general, or deaf characters. Like, there are so many, and I enjoy all of them, but there is just not enough representation of blind people. Blind people who are actually real. Because there are some, I mean, I haven't really read them, but there are some blind people who are like superheroes in fantasy books, and that's great, but I just want a story about blind people doing just ordinary things, and preferably one that's written in the 21st century that's not Helen Keller or Louis Braille or Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles. Okay, maybe my rant will be sort of similar to my other rants, but I actually quit playing the piano because I got so sick of being asked if I was going to be the next Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles, because that's what people know about when they think about blind people. Oh yeah, and my favorite question, do you know sign language? No, I don't. But Helen Keller knows sign language. Well, I'm not Helen Keller, and Helen Keller didn't know sign language. Helen Keller knew the manual alphabet because she was deaf. That is very different than sign language. You are spelling words into her hand that she can feel. I do not know sign language because I cannot see. Therefore, I cannot see the signs that you are making with your hands. I have a whole other video, if you guys want to check it out, about things you should and should not do around a blind person. I am way funnier in that video. But back to the books. So, yeah, I think there's just not enough representation of blind people in literature. I actually do have a list of books that do have blind characters that I've read, and some I have not read. But yeah, so I kind of thought I'd sort of go over those and kind of talk about what I thought of them or whatever. So the first one you probably all heard of, The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. You know, Hazel Grace and I forgot what his name is. The boy's name. But yeah, like these two kids with cancer fall in love with each other, and it's a whole like tragic love story. Come on, you probably saw the movie if you didn't read the book. But there is a blind character named Isaac. He loses his sight due to cancer. He's not very prominent, but he is a blind character. And you see them playing like auditory video games with him. Hazel Grace and... what is that kid's name? Man, the internet's going to kill me. I don't remember this guy's name. What is his name? Hazel Grace's boyfriend. Wow. I am blanking out on this kid's name. Whatever. The point is that Isaac was a blind character. He became blind. We saw him, like, smashing things because he was about to lose his sight. It was a whole thing. And, yeah, it wasn't a huge representation of a blind character, but it was there. So, there's that one. Then we have Light a Single Candle by Beverly Butler. This one, yeah, I actually wrote the description for this one. When Kathy lost her sight at the age of 14, she faced a very different way of life, where her other senses had to take over the work of her eyes. Adjusting to blindness was often easier than handling the reactions of people. One friend who now avoided her. Another smothered her with too much kindness. Then came the thrill of independence after completing a tough training course with Trudy, her wonderful new guide dog. With her new freedom of movement, Kathy accepted the challenge of going back to public high school. And then there's Gift of Gold, which is the sequel where Kathy is in college trying to be a speech therapist. And that one was, I could not find the publication date for the first one, but the sequel was published in 1972. So, yeah, like this is as close to representation as I've gotten, but it takes place in the early 70s, if not the 60s. So, like, technology has changed so much. There is so much that has changed that people don't know about because they're not reading about it and it doesn't exist in literature. So, although I did enjoy those books, they are not relatable to me. Plus, I was born blind, so I can't really relate to losing it. So, in some ways, those books are just depressing. Anyway, then we have The Seeing Summer by Jeanette Ayerly. I can't even pronounce her last name. E-Y Ayerly. This one is out of print, but I actually really enjoyed this one. I don't know if you can find it, but it's available in Braille. And I read it when I was a kid, and I loved it. This is another one that this is definitely one that got pretty close to the representation I wanted, especially when I was little when I read it. Jenny moves into Carrie's neighborhood. Jenny is blind. Then they get kidnapped. I mean, wow, that's a very short description. I didn't realize it was so short. But basically, like, Jenny is super fearless and independent, and she kind of shows Carrie that she can kind of navigate on her own, and they become like real friends. Carrie sort of fumbles trying to figure things out, but they eventually become friends and then they get kidnapped together. It's a whole thing. But that is kind of what I want because Jenny was like born that way and she's confident and it's just normal to her. This is one of the few books I've ever seen where we're not reading about a kid who's upset because they're blind or like the journey of it. I just can't relate to that. And I'm sure there are lots of other people who can relate to that. But I think there should be more books where it's just who they are. Just blind and they have adventures and whatever. But I love that book. If anybody can find copies of that, it'd be interesting for people to read it and tell me what they think. But I've heard that it's out of print, which sucks. But yeah, it's called The Seeing Summer. Anyway, the next one I recently just read. I actually heard about this one through Amanda from The Curly Reader. I'm not sure if she's read it or not, but she talked about it in one of her videos. And so I read it and I loved it. It's called The Distance Between Me and the Cherry Tree by Paola Peretti. Funny, she has my name. It's even spelled correctly. Paola. Okay, Mafalda is a 9-year-old girl who knows one thing. Sometime in the next 6 months, her sight will fail completely. Can Mafalda find a way through a seemingly dark future and still go to school, play soccer, and look after her beloved cat? With the help of her family and friends, Mafalda needs to discover the things that will be important to her when her sight has failed. So, it doesn't really describe it too well, but what I loved about it was she is friends with, like, the janitor. The janitor is, like, a really sweet lady who's, like, really kind to her. Kind of gruff, but she's kind. She, like, buys her Braille books and stuff like that, and she kind of helps her adjust to the idea of losing her sight. And Mafalda is also kind of a list maker. I don't know. And the ending will make you bawl your eyes out, so yeah. If you're going to read that, prepare to cry, but I recommend you read it because I really loved it. I think I read it last year or the year before. It's one of the very few books about blind people I actually enjoyed. Next is one that I read in my childhood, like a long time ago. It's Follow My Leader by James Garfield. Actually, my Braille teacher, Miss Schindler, read it to us. And yeah. After Jimmy is blinded in an accident with the firecracker, he has to relearn all the things he used to know. How to get dressed, how to find his way around the house, even how to eat. With the help of a determined therapist, he learns to read Braille and use a cane. Then he's given the chance to have a guide dog. Learning to work with Leader is not easy, but Jimmy tries harder than he ever has before. Can Leader really give him the ability and the confidence he needs? Yeah. I enjoyed this book, even though it's another kid adjusting to losing their sight. He actually got hit in the eye with a firecracker, which sounds horrific. But yeah. What I liked about this book was that his friends were like super supportive and they were all like learning Braille with him. It was great. And he got to go like be with his sighted friends and go on camping trips and stuff. It was like once he kind of learned to get around, it was really cool. Although I'm not sure if 13-year-old boys actually go to guide dog school in real life. As far as I know, the only people I know who go to guide dog school are full-grown adults. But whatever. Anyway, then we have Gentle's Holler. This one is a series. I love this book. I actually talked to the author of this book. I emailed her because I couldn't find the sequels to the trilogy in Braille a long time ago. The author is Carrie Madden. So yeah, she actually sent me a copy of the sequels like after I emailed her begging for them because I wanted to know what happened next. Anyway, but yeah, now they're available on Bookshare and Braille, so that's nice. Anyway, Gentle's Holler. The 60s may have come to other parts of North Carolina, but with Mama pregnant again, Daddy struggling to find work, and 9 siblings underfoot, nobody in the holler has much time for modern-day notions, especially not 12-year-old Livy 2, aspiring songwriter and self-appointed guardian of little sister Gentle, whose eyes don't work so good yet. Even after a doctor confirms her fears, Livy 2 is determined to make the best of Gentle's situation and sets out to transform the family's scrappy Dawson into a genuine seeing eye dog. But when tragedy strikes, can Livy 2 continue to stay strong for her family? So this one is not really, Gentle is 3 years old, so 2 years old. So there's not a whole lot about her being, her as a character. She's a baby. It's kind of the family adjusting to her being blind, and there's like a lot of other siblings. She's kind of among the pack. So there's not a whole lot about her, like, as a blind character, I guess. Just sort of how the family adjusts to it, but it's still interesting. And I enjoy the whole family in general, and like the kids are really funny. The accents are funny. And Livy 2 is named Livy 2 because the mom, this first baby, Livy 1, I guess, she basically, I guess she was a stillborn. So they just named the next kid Livy, which is honestly odd. I don't know. So they call her Livy 2. Anyway, yeah. So there's that one. It's a great series, and they're like, it's funny. Most of these books are middle grade. Anyway, okay, no, this is not my last one. This next one is not a middle grade. This is an adult one. It's called Faye Far Away. Faye is a 37-year-old, happily married mother of 2 young daughters. Every night before she puts them to bed, she whispers to them, "You are good, you are kind, you are clever, you are funny." She's determined that they never doubt for a minute that their mother loves them unconditionally. After all, her own mother, Jeannie, had died when she was only 7 years old, and Faye has never gotten over that intense pain of losing her. But one day, her life is turned upside down when she finds herself in 1977, the year before her mother died. Suddenly, she has the chance to reconnect with her long-lost mother and even meets her own younger self, a little girl she can barely remember. Jeannie doesn't recognize Faye as her daughter, of course, even though there is something eerily familiar about her. As the 2 women become close friends, they share many secrets, but Faye is terrified of revealing the truth about her identity. Will it prevent her from returning to her own time and her beloved husband and daughters? What if she's doomed to remain in the past forever? Faye knows that eventually she will have to choose between those she loves in the past and those she loves in the here and now. and that knowledge presents her with an impossible choice. So, yeah, you're asking, where's the blind character in this book? The blind character is Faye's friend. She works with blind people. It's like a side plot, but honestly, that's what makes it even better, because this friend is just kind of there. I already forgot his name. That's so bad. I read it like 3 years ago. Judge me. But he is just like her sidekick who, like, she does not treat any differently, which is what I like. You know, they kind of like go out to bars together. She sets them up with people, you know, and they're just fun friends. And she just she talks to him about her issues with going back in time and all that stuff. And I think that's what I like about him, that he's just a blind guy and it's not a big deal. That's one of my favorite books of the blind character, even though he is not the center of the story at all. He's just kind of a side character, but he is one of my favorite blind characters that I've ever read, purely because he is just there to be like moral support, and he's just normal. And yeah, she works for like technology for blind people, so that is like really cool for me. But I initially didn't even know there was going to be a blind character in this book. I read it for the time travel, and truly, you should read it for the time travel too. It was one of my favorite books, I think in 2020 or 2021, I cannot remember, but I need to reread it. I love that book. Anyway, next is one I have not read, but I know other people have, and I am trying really hard to like this book because there are not that many books with blind characters, and I don't feel pressured to like it out of solidarity. Anyway, it's called All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. Marie-Laure lives in Paris near the Museum of Natural History, where her father works. When she is 12, the Nazis occupy Paris, and father and daughter flee to the walled citadel of Saint-Malo. I do not speak French. Where Marie-Laure's reclusive great-uncle lives in a tall house by the sea. With them, they carry what might be the museum's most valuable and dangerous jewel. In a mining town in Germany, Werner Pfennig, an orphan, grows up with his younger sister, enchanted by a crude radio they find that brings them news and stories from places they have never seen or imagined. Werner becomes an expert at building and fixing these crucial new instruments and is enlisted to use his talent to track down the resistance. Deftly interweaving the lives of Marie-Laure and Werner, Doerr illuminates the ways against all odds people try to do good for one another. And this is going to become a TV show, apparently, on Netflix, which is why I want to try to read it again. I just have not been able to get into it. There's just so much description that I just don't care about, and so much poetic language, and I'm just like, get to the action. Because the description sounds really good, but then, like, I try to read it, and I'm, like, bored. And I feel bad for being bored, but I'm genuinely bored. But I feel like I need to have solidarity for the few blind characters in books that exist. And this one is so popular. I don't know. Maybe I just need to give it up as a lost cause. Anyway. Yeah. I need to, like, stop feeling guilty about not liking this book. This last one I did read and actually reviewed it. It's called Haven by Sherry Gomes. There was one thing she knew. This would not be the end. She would not give up. Not ever. Nico might have the victory now, but she would find a way to turn the tables on him. Holding her head high, she vowed that somehow, someday, Rosie would be with her again. Elizabeth Bennet arrives in Haven Valley seeking healing after her emotionally abusive, unscrupulous ex-husband uses his family's political influence to gain sole custody of their daughter, solely on the basis that Elizabeth is blind. At Haven Valley Church, Michael Kelly's grief for his wife is as fresh as when he lost her 3 years ago, but he focuses on his love for the son he is now raising alone. A good man, a good father, and a good pastor to the community, he deeply longs for companionship and love. These two people, nearly broken by disaster, meet on a snowy night that will change their lives. Through this town, its people, and its very special children, and two very special children, Michael and Elizabeth begin to create their safe haven, though the past relentlessly places stumbling blocks in their path. Can they keep the love and healing they've found? So this one is written recently, and it is definitely the most modern. Elizabeth uses computers, she reads Braille, like it's as modern as you're going to get. She uses a cell phone. My only problem with this one is the custody battle. If I'm a sighted person, I'm not going to believe that Elizabeth can actually handle parenthood, because you never see her alone with Michael's kid or with her own kid. You meet the kid like an hour before the book is over, and we're supposed to believe that it's insta-love between this family. Like, the kid has one visit with Elizabeth and Michael, and all of a sudden she's calling Michael Papa. And I'm supposed to believe that she can parent when she's never been alone with the kid in the entirety of the story. Like, I wanted more focus on the custody battle and the capability of the blind parent to be able to parent. And I'm not saying I don't think they're capable of parenting. I have friends who are blind parents, and I've never seen them with their babies. I see them on Facebook, but I assume they're parenting fine. Their kids are alive. I'm just saying that this one lacked in representation because it was so focused on the romance of this couple that they didn't give enough attention to the custody battle, and they kind of just made him a straight up bad guy and didn't go into the gray area of being a blind parent. Like, in real life, blind parents sometimes get their kids taken from them at the hospital. Like, child services will just come and take your baby because they see you're blind, and you have to actually prove in court that you can take care of them. Or they let you have them, and the first fall that your kid has, and kids fall all the time with vision or no vision. So if your kid falls off the bed when you're changing the diaper or something by accident, your kid's taken away from you, and it's a whole court thing to get them back. So, if they went that angle, sure, but they just made him a straight up bad guy, and good wins all. I don't know. But I think a lot of the Christian fiction booktubers will still like this book for the romance aspect, and it's definitely church-filled. So, anyway, that's all the books I have. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to do this video talking about the lack of blind characters in literature, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it wasn't too long. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!
Speech on. Stop recording video.